Hello, it's me, Amani, and I am here with more thoughts on Married at First Sight. And my thoughts are on the reunion part two. I had no thoughts for the reunion part one. I just watch it all like the rest of you. And there are other reviewers, and I do like to hear their thoughts. I'm definitely going to join Couples Couch with Cam and Pat tomorrow night live. Definitely hoping I can be there with them. They're one of my faves. Tamara Tattletales, she does God's work. She literally has all of the background story on Juan, aka Juancho. So if you want to know what's going on with Juan and social media and why he's spilling his guts everywhere and feeling like he's been blackmailed and all these things, check out Tamara Tattletales. She's awesome. Okay. So I'm going to let you know my thoughts. So I did watch it Tuesday night and I even made a few notes. So I'm not just going to freestyle like I normally do. But one of the things is I actually think Kevin is a great host. Kevin Frazier. I think he hits the nail right on the head and then he cuts to the chase. And there's such a short time and there's so many questions I know that the viewers have, the audience, and he probably gets that he has to get out and he just finds a way to get them all out. But one of the things I really like, and I think that he hit the nail on the head with Michelle when he said that her finding out about the text gave her a real reason not to try. And I take that as Michelle was never interested in David from day one. She was completely repulsed by him, completely turned off. From the time, I think she played it off a bit at the wedding, but it just continued to be worse. And she was very rude, very curt. And now these reunion shows are happening a year after they filmed. So a lot of time has gone by. So I think when people are questioning how could they forgive each other, how could they be friends, it's been a full year and that's a lot of time. But these are my observations, my thoughts. Definitely, it's true. I think Michelle, with her her sleuthing ways, it I do think she became obsessed with trying to know the truth. And I do think it gave her something else to focus on because, she had to pass the time for the 8 weeks somehow. And now it was just proving that David wasn't who he said he was. And something about him, but I think it was just like his hair. I think he just seemed, I guess, a bit like unkept and it just was not working for her from the jump. And I feel like everybody, they've all had time to get media training and know what they should say during this. And Michelle definitely, she's talked about saying that, she could have done better during the time, but she treated him like dirt on the bottom of a shoe. Like, that's how she treated him. I have no other comparison. Remember at the honeymoon, like, she didn't want him to talk to her. She was always short and curt with all her responses, but Michelle had a glow up, y'all. Like she just turned 40 and she looks amazing. She had a glow up. She lost weight and she's like, looks like she's living her best life now. So I'll just say that. What I think about David, oh my God, when he starts talking, I think he's actually very insecure. And he disguises his insecurity with bravado. And then he tries to say big words when he's in bravado mode, and he often says the wrong word or the wrong tense. I mean, and that's normal, but you can tell he's nervous about everything to do with them talking about him and Madison, and he just wants to stick to his script. Like whoever coached him was like, don't go off topic, make sure you talk about you and Madison. You're in love now. This is the person you're going to marry. He just stuck to that script all the time. But whenever he starts talking, you can tell when he's lying about something or insecure. He has kind of a stutter. Then he starts talking a bit fast. And then he gets very defensive. And then the bravado comes. And it's just like, I'm not sure, these are real people. So I'm very aware of that. And I know online can be so cruel. Like, I know that Reddit, all of those things. So I'm not here to add to that. Like, I honestly, these are just my honest opinions. I think David's kind of cute. I often have a sideways ponytail, so I wasn't upset with his hairstyle. I think there's just something like a little, I don't know what the word is, like it's like a little like unkept all the time. Like, he's neat, but then it's like the ponytail is sideways, but then it's sideways, not really sideways. And then it's like, yeah, he just has this thing. But, I think he's kind of a nice looking guy. I I don't like, I'm never gonna like what him and Madison did. But if, they are really in love and everything, that's great. But another observation, David lives at Madison's house. He said they have a property together. I don't know financially if him and Madison are equal. It seems like Madison might have more, but you know what? I've watched these seasons. I've watched Brianna and Vincent, and I can remember Brianna was really like a major breadwinner, and Vincent was an entrepreneur. He's now selling real estate, and he's the sole breadwinner of the house. Like, she just had her second baby. So cute. So you also can't judge people by their finances sometimes on the show or what's going on, especially when there's a partnership. I think there's a way that they work on those things together. Um, I feel like Juan is really hooked on his image and really as being portrayed as a good guy, and I think that's very important to him. I think it's why he's on social media trying to explain all these things. And one thing I know about social media, the more you explain, the worse it is. Like, just let it go. And so many people have gone through this stuff after the show. I think it's quite a shock to the system, just living your life, going on a reality show, and then coming off and then being bombarded, especially with all the negativity. Like, I really try not to post negative things, but I do see the comments, and I feel like as time goes on, it just gets worse and worse. And anyway, I try to keep it positive. I am running a positive zone with my channel. I'm cuss free. and I think, and it's that's something I also like about the different reviewers. Like, everybody has different styles and stuff, and I just give my thoughts. But I do like that there's room for so many different versions of people talking about these shows. Anyways, but yeah, Juan definitely has a problem with wanting to make sure he looks good, and that comes across. And he looks so tense on this show with the smile that he had plastered on his face. And I guess, and that this show was taped before probably all this other stuff is going on now with him and Carla, and him accusing Carla of being a bot and her family. So it's interesting watching their energies back and forth. Carla just has literally no time for him. I still really like Carla. I also think that he's judgmental. Like, he's really judgmental, and the things he's been saying in the interviews about Carla not liking to clean, not wanting to cook, and the things he looks for in a partner. Yes, in a way he did say them on the show, but not all at once in an interview. So he might think that it sounds okay, he's just talking about things that were on the show, but it's actually not okay. And Carla's not really talking about him. Carla's just living her life, what Carla does. But she looked beautiful, and she just basically says what she has to say and has no time for him. And I don't like, we'll never, for me, I don't think we got to know who Carla really was on this show. I'll tell you some things that I remembered on the honeymoon when they were doing that swimming thing, and she was really uncomfortable. So she talks about how he forgot her when he spent the morning with David and was like, I had a great morning with David, I forgot about you. But I also think that swimming thing was whack. Like, they were under the water, she wasn't comfortable. he just wanted to get this picture. The whole thing was crazy to me. I was like, why don't they just stop and do something else? Or why isn't he supporting her? I don't know. There's just something. There's something about Wancho. Another thing, I have more notes on Juan. Just had that he looked really strained, and then about him being all over the internet and accusing Carl and her family and stuff. Okay, so some of my favorite moments. One of my favorite moments was when Brandon came out. Brandon is a loose cannon, and in Jamaica they say extra. I'm Trini, so I'm from the West Indies, and yeah, Brandon is very extra. And not only that, he has no filter. He has zero media training and zero filters. Like, he just says anything. And some of what he says is like off the chain crazy. Like, he came out there, and he's just talking and talking. And he's talking about Hennessy and sex and all this stuff. And Pastor Cal looks like somewhat traumatized. And Dr. Pia is. Oh my gosh, the contrast between Akiche when he's on there talking to Eminem, and he obviously has had media training to retract some of the things he said, say what he didn't mean, and to have like a really clean cut image, not to say too much. He's gone through full media training and he's done it well. When they bought Brandon out, he got up and left. And Brandon wanted to like dap him or shake hands, and Akiche just ignored him. It's just, Brandon is a lot, y'all. He's a lot of energy, but I think it's very, so basically, he basically said they met and they made a lot of whoopee. Hennessy and sex, and they just had a lot going on. I mean, I guess, Eminem had been single for a long time. I think that story about them meeting in grade 5 is just all fabricated. I don't think any of that's true, but she probably knew him a little bit, whether they were set up or whatever. But I do think, like I say, I've said it before, personally, I have a rule: if I meet somebody that is going through a divorce, I will not talk to anybody that's separated, and I will only talk to somebody if they've been divorced for at least 5 years. And making sure that the exit's amicable. Like, you don't want to go through things or be in the middle of anything. So my only hope for like, she seems just to really, she says she goes all in. And she also talked about she's lost a baby during this time too, that's very traumatic. That's such a hard loss for someone to go through. So I honestly just hope she's okay. And maybe with all of her professionalism, and after dealing with Akiche, or Akechi, sorry, Ike, sorry, Akechi, maybe Brandon is like what she needs. She needs something the exact opposite of the experience she had, and Brandon is indeed that. I just hope that he's legit. He seems to very much want to be on television and get his 5 minutes of fame, and he has, like I said, no filter. He talks about any and everything, so I have no words. He did ask to get married there. I just like Pastor Cal. They just need to show segments or clips of Pastor Cal all the time. David came with more apologies and apologies and apologies. And he said, one of the things he said when they asked him if Kevin was like, can you just tell us the truth? Like, when did you guys start hooking up? When were you together? Was it, at the honeymoon? Tell us the timeline. And David said he'd like to politely decline in the timely manner. I don't know what that means. I'd like to politely decline in the timely manner, but that's what I mean. When he is nervous, he just starts to like mix like talking proper with, he just, I don't know. He does it all the time. It's just something I notice, and it's when he's nervous and when he's under pressure. And whatever it is, like his own insecurities are that he has to work through and deal with. Um, there's something too, because his only request was to have a wife who was a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, that's his thing. That's it. Um, and he got that, and she wasn't very nice to him, but it's like you have to have more than that, and you have to have more than that going for you. I do think, Madison seems like very intelligent. She seems to be on the ball, and we'll see if it lasts. They're smitten right now, and it has been a year, so what can we say, right? We're just on the outside. Again, I have more notes on David. That he just looks like he's lying because he starts stuttering and shaking. And then that whole thing with Madison, what is it? The love, sex, and passion are messy. I think it was Dr. Pepper that said that. And it's true. Like, when you bring all those things together, especially in the context of this show, it was messy. And I think I'm just wondering if they understand, or if they've seen the seasons before, why the public is going to have an opinion. And I hope they can just log off. I deactivate sometimes. It's good to just take a break and not be like Juan. Juan's trying to respond to everybody. He's trying to make himself look good. That, it just doesn't work. Sometimes it's just best to be quiet. And the other thing I noticed, David said that she's the breadwinner. He said that about Madison. We all know that, because it didn't seem like all his finances were together. Like, he's building and getting things together, but he's in the basement because he's working on getting things together. But like I said before, they're gonna work things out. And we've seen other couples that maybe weren't fiscally equal in the show, but things change after, when there's a real partnership and a really good marriage. Um, Alan, Alan still looks hurt. He says everything's fine. He doesn't want this, and he says all the right things, but he always looks hurt. It's like he's reliving the trauma all the time. And I mean, of course, the camera people, the producers, they always flash the camera to him when they're talking to Madison and David, when they talk about how happy they are. Alan just still looks hurt. Like, I'm glad he has a girlfriend and everything, but I also feel like if you don't really deal with your pain and your hurt, that it does come back to haunt you. I also think that Pastor Cal and everybody's telling him that he's such an awesome, a great guy. There's that. But when he went off and was punching the cupboard and turning on the stove and burning the book, I don't think that's okay. I understand. I understand what it's like to have anger problems. Um, but I hope that, I know we only see such a short part of the show, so I do hope it's something that they address with him, and I do hope it's something he works on, because that doesn't just go away, right? And he talked about his childhood and the difficulties he had growing up and stuff. So you know me, I always want the best for people. And the other thing I love is that David, he cussed. Like, I'm not a cusser either, but he definitely dropped an F bomb, and the camera just flashed to Michelle's face, and she was just completely turned off. But as far as like the overall theme of the reunion, I mean, Camille and Thomas are fine. Juan has a girlfriend. Carla is just living her best life. David and Madison are together. Alan has a girlfriend. Who's left? Who else was on the show? Like, am I forgetting people? Who else was on the show? Oh, MM is with Brandon, energetic Brandon. So those are kind of my thoughts on the show. Like I said, the things that stood out to me, the most are that Alan still looks hurt, and that David just seems to be masking some type of insecurity or something. But who am I? I'm not a therapist. I'm just watching the show. I'm just an artist that likes a little bit of reality TV. But those are my thoughts on Married at First Sight Season 18, The Reunion Part 2. And that's what's up. Please like and subscribe.